Hi guys, welcome to Back to Work Still Pumping. We're going to give everyone just another minute or so to trickle in.
Hi.
Hi Amy, just waiting on Lindsay now. Love seeing these participant numbers go up.
Nice.
I love when people can join live.
Me too.
Yeah, but we will be sending out the recording as well, just so everybody knows if you got to hop early or whatnot. Hi Lindsay, you're on mute. You good?
Hello.
There we go. Okay. All right, let's see. Time check. Okay, 1:32. So let's go ahead and get started because we got a lot to cover today. So my name is Lydia. I am the growth marketing manager here at Stork. I am joined by three amazing panelists today, which I cannot wait to introduce you to. Get to you guys in a minute. We'll just do a couple housekeeping things first, and then we'll dive right in. So before we get started, everybody's audio is already muted except for our panelists. But we want to hear from you. This is a very interactive conversation. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. We've got my boss today, head of growth here at Milk Storks. He's Rufo running AV and the chat. Let's put him to work. So ask your questions, drop your comments in there. We will also have a couple poll questions as we go through this conversation, just to learn a little bit more about all you guys out there. And like I mentioned earlier, the recording will be shared afterwards. So if you are registered and you are here, you will get the recording. TBD when, probably shortly after this, but possibly by tomorrow, but you will receive it. Okay, so without further ado, let me just turn off my screen share here. Oops. Okay. I am very excited about this conversation, as I know a lot of you are today. This is actually one of our most popular topics and most in-demand webinars. And so we're really excited that we are here to finally make it happen. And we are joined by our three panelists that I have raved about on social media for the past couple days, all of whom have very different pumping journeys and very different lines of work. And the reason we're all here today is because, spoiler alert, pumping sucks. And it sucks more when you go back to work and have to travel. So everybody's pumping journey is obviously different. And we are excited to learn from the three of you, your experiences and maybe some tips and wisdom that our audience can try to see if it fits with their own pumping journey, to frankly just make it suck less, right? And make it a little bit more sustainable. So I'll introduce all of you lovely ladies. Let's start with Maya Wolf. Up top there is like Hollywood Squares. So you give a little wave. Hi, this is Maya. Maya, you're on mute, just FYI. Maya is the named account manager at Palo Alto Networks. She has over 10 years of experience in enterprise cybersecurity. She lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with her husband and 17-month-old son, who she is still breastfeeding and pumping for. Yeah, I know. It's like,
Thank you.
can we all just get medals for?
Right?
Yeah. Next up, we have Amy Kiska. Amy Kiska is the co-founder and CEO of Recess. She is our female founder here on the panel today. Recess is building the go-to marketplace for kids after school activities, classes, and camps. And they are starting in Austin, but very soon launching nationwide. And she built Recess in her third trimester and closed VC funding immediately after the birth of her child. So also
Thank you.
the Milk Stork medal for you.
Thank you so much. And my daughter's name is Maya, so I love that I'm on a panel with another Maya as well. My lucky name. She's 8 months old and has been combo fed since birth. So excited to talk about her feeding journey today.
So we've got 8-month-old Maya, and then we have Maya's son, 17 months old. And then last but not least, Lindsay Larson joining us from Cargill. Lindsay is the restaurant solutions advisor at Cargill, where she helps build relationships with food service in the food service space. And she and her husband have a 20-month-old daughter who she is still pumping and breastfeeding for. So also, thank you so much, the three of you, for joining us and being here to share these experiences with everybody. I did promise everyone different pumping journeys, and we've got a range of ages here, that we have all that you guys have are still pumping for. So let's dive in. If you guys, everybody ready? Sound good?
Ready? Let's do it. Love
Yeah.
it.
So our first poll question for the audience is, where are you in your pumping and work journey? So are you on parental leave, planning / dreading your return? Did you just return to work recently, or you've been back a while still pumping? Maybe you're moving away from pumping. Or are you just here to support your team and you're just curious because you are an awesome human being and want to learn about this amazing feat that people do. Okay, so while you guys answer that, let's start with a question. I'll ask this for all three of you. We can take turns here. So, what's the weirdest or worst place that you have had to pump on a work trip? I know everybody has these stories, but as three women who travel a lot, I'm really curious. Let's start with Lindsay, because I know you travel a lot. I think, Lindsay, you said you travel about 50% of the time, right?
Yes, I do, Lydia. So I work for Cargill, which of those that you're not familiar, Cargill's a family company providing food ingredients, agricultural solutions, industrial products to nourish the world in a safe, responsible, and sustainable way. In my particular role, I work in the food service space. I have a customer in the quick service restaurant industry. If you want to think of fast food, go ahead and think that. But the formal term we use is quick service restaurant, QSR. And when my daughter was born in December 2023, my breastfeeding journey went so well. And I know I'm really grateful for that. Not everyone has that experience. And first off, just congrats for being here, because whether you're a pumping mom or you're just a curious supporter, a partner, a manager, a colleague, a friend, family member, thank you. I know I've got a lot of them here myself. So thank you for your support, because pumping is really hard. And I think people need to understand that. So this is a great question, Lydia, to kick off with, because the worst place I've had a pump in my line of work, we do a lot of work as well with the nonprofit world. So one of the charities we were supporting, I was very happy to be invited to the tournament, participate, a little different than being in the restaurant or working with our products every day that we're selling. I was in a charity golf tournament and I played 18 rounds, 18 holes of golf, and I was still pumping. I was 6 months postpartum. So yes, 2 times I had to pump. Once I was brave enough to ask to go to the clubhouse, I just said, hey, golfers, you go. The other three in my foursome, you go golf. I am not a golfer, so to even be there is a little bit of a stretch. So I went pumped, drove the golf cart back. And then the second time I said, we are so far from that clubhouse. I'm comfortable with these three men I was golfing with, if anything. I said, I'm putting a cover on. I have to pump on the golf cart. You go golf. So for me, it was a charity golf tournament in June of 2024, 6 months postpartum.
Wow. Wow. I mean, were you with colleagues that were familiar with your pumping journey, or were these like people that you were like, I just got to do it?
No, they were my customer. So they weren't even my immediate Cargill colleagues. But I think I just stated my needs, which is important, I think, to do to anyone. Just say what you need and just be really clear with that. And I feel like my journey has been to not think that people are criticizing me. They're just curious. And, if you have multiple questions of that realm, then you can kind of set the tone straight. But they all were dads. They knew what I needed to do, and I was really clear with it. And then they're really supportive. They're like, do you need water? Do you need shade? And I think that was the biggest thing I learned, just be really declarative in what you need. And of course, you make do, but I think you have to at least set the boundary of this is what I need. I'm a new mom, and this is what we're going to go with.
This is that's really interesting. And I know, Amy, you've mentioned this before, saying what you need.
Yeah.
Where have you had to, pump in a weird place and really learn that lesson as well for yourself?
So many places. So I'm the founder of Recess, which is a marketplace for children's after-school activities, classes, and camps. And we're venture-backed, so I have to take investor meetings in random places all across the world. I've pumped in my car on the way to these meetings. Just, I'm sure many people on the roads have seen me, and I'm just no shame. We got to do this and get it done. One place I'm thinking in particular, I was at an investor meeting at Soho House. The investor left, and then I went to the front desk and I said, "Hey, just need a place to pump." And thinking Soho House is more like a hotel. Of course, they have a private place somewhere, for me to do this. And I was pretty dismissed, where they were like, "There's a bench in the bathroom on the floor if you need to go there." And I think we've all felt that feeling before of like, "Oh my gosh, I just want a private place to do this." And to Lindsay's point, being pretty declarative, I'm like, well, I need to find a place here to do this. So I honestly just went to the corner. There was a pool there, went to the corner. I had to take my top off, hid myself, a little bit, and just went for it. Because I said, this is so beautiful that my body makes this milk, and I want to celebrate that. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And this is the only place that I can do it. My body's in pain, so I'm just going to go ahead. So I think being declarative and then also just being proud of your body is a huge thing here, and doing what makes you feel comfortable.
So we've got golf course with
Yeah.
3 male clients, Soho House in the corner.
Public place, and also in the car a million times.
In the car, yeah, I think we've all done the car, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Maya, bring it home. What's the weirdest place you've had to?
Yeah. So I'm in sales, so I'm traveling quite a bit for customer meetings or sales kickoffs or internal trainings and things like that. And I work with predominantly males in my industry. I do cybersecurity and technology. So the weirdest place probably has been on an airplane. And I didn't want to do it in the bathroom because it's so unsanitary in there. So I just did it, and I had a middle seat next to 2 coworkers, and I just told them what I was going to do, and they were obviously supportive of it. I think they probably felt a little like awkward, and I did my best to be as modest as possible. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's more important for me to be able to give that nutrition to my kiddo. So I think the airplane was probably the weirdest and the most uncomfortable. And then I've also it was for work as well, but I had to like sneak away and do it in a bathroom because there was nowhere else to go. And you like hear like drunk people in the back in the bathroom and stuff, and you're trying to pump into your thing. But yeah, those are my 2.
I mean, are you guys hearing this? So golf course, Soho House, corner of the pool, and middle seat of an airplane. I don't even like watching a movie in the middle seat of an airplane, right? Because people can watch what you're watching on your screen. But I think you all touch upon this really important thing of once you get further along in your pumping journey, hopefully you are around people who just get it, right? They might be dismissive, like Amy, you mentioned, but after a while you get more comfortable, it sounds like, with advocating for yourself, because this is a medical need, right? Like, no one is pumping for fun. I want to talk a little bit about this feeling of.
Actually, Lydia, before we hit the next topic, can I just show the poll results?
Oh, sure. How do you
Okay.
do that?
I'm going to show it right now.
Oh, okay. Are they on?
Does everybody see it?
Can you guys see them?
Yes.
Yeah, we could
Okay.
see them.
All right. So we've got 15% planning your return, still on leave. We've got 28% of you just returned to work recently. That seems like the majority here. And then 23% of you have been back for a while and still pumping. Good for you. Keep fighting the good fight. 7% transitioning away from pumping. And then 27% of you guys are here just because you're curious and supporting.
Wow.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Caesar. Yeah, one thing I want to dive in here and talk about is this. I think for a lot of people, when they go back to work, whether it's pressure from their employer or maybe some pressure just from our society or from ourselves, feeling the need to maybe compartmentalize pumping and your work self, right? So the 3 of you, did you feel that I know Amy, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are as a female founder. So, Amy, do you want to hit that one first?
Yeah. I had to build this into my life. I knew that it wasn't something that I could compartmentalize. And luckily, being in the parenting space, parents really understood. But I knew I had to make it work with the millions of meetings that I have every day. I started my company 6 months pregnant, ended up launching the company. It was actually like right when I gave birth to my daughter. We got a lot of investment interest very early on. And so I had to take calls while pumping. I had to be up in the middle of the night writing emails while pumping, getting all of this done. So I knew I had to find a way to build it into my life as opposed to making it feel separate. It just became part of my daily rhythm. And I wanted to build a couple things in, like how can I be productive while I'm pumping? If I have to pump, for example, I love Kindred Bravely bras. I'll never forget that first time, like trying to hold my Spectra little pumps here and just like, without having a pumping bra that worked. And I was like, this is such a time suck and a waste of productivity. I could really be getting things done if I had a bra where I could do this. So there's many pictures of me like on the phone, with my pumping bra, getting things done. And so I just turned into like a productivity thing for me during that time and made it work. So didn't feel like that in the beginning, and then found a way to really make it happen for me and my company.
That's awesome. And Lindsay and Maya, you guys are in sort of different situations here. Both of your employers provide milk stork and lactation support. But did you feel, Lindsay, particularly because you travel so much, did you feel that sort of need, at least at first, or not at all, to compartmentalize your pumping and, motherhood journey versus your, professional self?
Thanks, Lydia. I think when I came back to work, I just said, it's been going so well breastfeeding, and I had started pumping pretty early, mainly because I was just curious what this was. And I never forget my first time understanding what pumping was. And I have 2 older sisters and I have 4 nephews. But you don't really, like, if you don't talk about it, you don't know. I remember I was on the airplane in the middle seat again, and the woman I was on the end seat, and the woman in the middle seat just kind of kept like looking under her seat, and her bag was not fitting very comfortably. And I just said, do you want to put that overhead? I can reach it for you. And then we switched seats too, because I just saw she was really nervous about whatever she was toting. So I was a little nervous too, like, what's going on? And then I just asked her, and she told me she went to the restroom halfway through the flight to pump. And I just said, wow, I'm 25, 26-year-olds at the time, and I'm learning so much about what this means for women just to go back to work and travel. So I feel like that alone was my first eye-opening experience. And I want to say, like, thank you again to Cargill for providing Milk Stork as a partner, and Milk Stork too for having me part of the panel. I think when I returned back to work postpartum, I was really just keeping it to myself. Like, I'm just the type of person, get it done, don't complain about it. But then I said, I really do need support. I work with all men who are very supportive, but I feel like I just needed to speak up more and say, like, this is why I'm turning my camera off during meetings. This is why during the meeting I need to step away. And I remember too, I was at a conference for my quick service restaurant industry customer, and I sat back down on my seat at conference, and a man flipped his watch at me like, where have you been? And instead of losing it, I just calmly said to him, and I showed my pump in my backpack. He's like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea what you were doing. And in hindsight, I probably should have said to him, hello, I need to go pump. I'll be back. So for those on the call, just give a woman grace, especially if they're trying to communicate about it. You need to listen. And again, if you keep asking, don't. Just learn, see what they need, and let them come to you for the support. I feel like that's a big thing. And I actually went and did a DEI moment, so a diversity, equity, inclusion moment to my team of just like, this is what breastfeeding is, this is what the Pump Act is, which I cannot believe was only signed in 2022, just saying that we are given the rights to be able to express breast milk in a private, clean space. So I feel like just doing those couple things, not only for myself, but for other women, especially at my company, has been really helpful. And even since I've been back to work, I think probably like once or twice a month, I'll just have a friend at work or someone reach out to me saying like, Lindsay, how have you done it? I need support. What is Milk Stork? So it just makes me think like I'm in the mindset of how can I help others? My journey's gone smooth. And like I said, I'm not too taken aback when people make these comments at me. Sometimes it's hard, but I don't want to compartmentalize that anger. I take it as more, how can I help others have a smoother experience? And the women that did it before me, wow, that's all I can say. I posted on LinkedIn about this event and how excited I was to join and have this conversation. And some of the comments from my colleagues, just like, we didn't have Milk Stork, like, this is so cool. And just seeing the outpouring of support is amazing. So let's just keep moving ahead and making it easier for other moms in the future.
Definitely. And that that visibility piece, right, is something that I think our generation of women are really spearheading to get away from that compartmentalization. Maya, have you had a similar experience? You said you work primarily or with a large number of men. Have you felt like any of that pressure to compartmentalize?
Yeah, so there was actually somebody I was sitting with, and I told him I was going to be, right back to go. I was going to go pump, and he was like, "Oh, you don't need to tell me you're pumping," and like almost like it was like a bad word, or like I was talking about something inappropriate. It made me feel like it was inappropriate the way that he like was like, "Don't call it pumping," and I was like, "Would you rather me call it like milking? I like, what do you want me to say? This is what I'm doing." And so I've definitely experienced similar comments, Lindsay. It's awkward, and so I think early on I definitely compartmentalized a lot because I felt like it was not that it was inappropriate, but just that they wouldn't get it. And it was just easier to not talk about it and to go do my thing. And I think a hard part too is early on, I'd have to go to like the mother's room, which thankful we have, but I felt like I was missing bits of the meeting that I was supposed to be a part of. And the whole time I'm in there, like watching the clock and freaking out, but then I'm also not pumping as much because I'm not in the right headspace because you've got to be thinking about baby and all the right things. And so that was really hard for me, but I kind of flipped my mindset and I thought more about like, this is nice to have a break for a minute. Like we deserve to have a few minutes away. We can come back to whatever it was that we missed, but this is a nice break and it's good mentally to take that for ourselves. And so just trying to put a positive spin on it instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm missing everything, or I'm gonna be behind. Definitely experienced that.
Yeah, you touched on a very interesting thing. I know we have some comments here in the chat too. Sort of like the FOMO, right? Of being a pumping parent and constantly being pulled away to maintain this pumping schedule and supply. And then, of course, like the mental aspect of like the planning of it as well, but still needing to be there and focus on your work. Lindsay, I remember, can you share the story how um, people talk about smoking breaks, they talk about all these kinds of other accommodations, but pumping breaks are still less talked about, less planned for. And Lindsay has an interesting story about that.
Yeah, thanks, Lydia. So when we were chatting, when you first invited me to the call, thank you again. You mentioned just how do you advocate and how do you make it known? You need certain things when you're traveling and pumping. And to put into perspective, I think I had 10 Milk Stork orders in my first 4 to 5 months back at work. So shout out Milk Stork. Thank you. I don't know how I'd do without you. But I was at my first big meeting back to work, and I just remember I said, like, how do I let my customer know I need a pump? I'm at a convention with thousands of people and I'm in Las Vegas. So I just remember I let online and I saw on Reddit that the particular hotel I was at, there's only the mini bar fridge, which, as you know, sometimes in Las Vegas and other cities, the mini bar fridge is censored. So if you try to move anything in that fridge, which is usually a lot of alcohol, to put any personal item in, you get charged because it's censored and you removed an item. So I saw that, did my homework, which again, I'm just doing my homework just to even show up as myself and do what I need to do. So if you're ever traveling, make sure to research where you're going. But the good thing is you always can request, and they should give you a medical fridge for your breast milk. So make sure they do that. Make sure it's plugged in ahead of time, nice and cool when you arrive and can put your milk in, because obviously you probably traveled to get there. So I did all that, made it to the hotel. Then at the conference, I went up to someone. I just said, "Is there a mother's room?" And they looked at me like, "You can go walk back to your hotel room." I was like, "I'm in Las Vegas. It's a 20-minute walk back to that hotel room." So I don't really like that answer, but okay. So I did it the first time. And then on my journey back to the hotel room, I ran into a couple other women doing the same journey I was doing. And I just said, there's got to be a better way. So I gave the event feedback just saying, if you're going to get up on stage in front of a couple thousand people, talk about where smoke break can happen, you can talk about other things where, such as a mother's room break can happen. That's not a bathroom. So I feel like I just took that and I said, okay, this happened. What can we do for the future to make it better? So I went a step ahead and I worked with our women owner network in that group. And I just said, okay, if we're going to talk about audio visual needs, or if someone needs a ramp, the smoke break, we need to have a questionnaire about mother's rooms needs, lactation spaces. So I'm really proud to say in the next event that happened with a couple thousand people again for my customer, they did have a questionnaire for attendees and there was a question for mother's room. So you bet I checked that box and I said, okay, let's see what it is. So baby steps I think we can take as wins, but if you're going through it, you're not alone and there's probably other people that need it. So I think we all can just speak up and help ourselves and others.
And going back to that visibility component, you know, like the three of you have all been very, I'd say, visible and open about your breastfeeding journeys and making it work. That's why you're here. Obviously, that's also how we found the three of you, right? Because of this advocacy. Um, did you know that there would be this much advocacy required? Maya, what, you know, like at an established company like Palo Alto, do you feel like you have to advocate still, or is it more of just like an awareness play that you feel like you're trying to promote breastfeeding and pumping?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Palo is amazing in the fact that we do have Milk Stork, so very thankful for that. So there's definitely visibility already happening, but I do still like there's this constant advocating for myself and for other moms. And we do have a women's network community within our organization as well. So I think community is the biggest thing and just sharing tips and tricks because I feel like I read so much stuff on my own and did a lot of my own research, and it would have been nice to. I think there's a lot of information out there, just in a lot of different places, and honestly, just talking to other people is how I learned the most instead of just reading articles and things like that. But there was a lot of like educating and trying to advocate for other moms within the company as well, and just sharing our stories and how to work around even within like our own corporate um, organization. So yeah.
Yeah, and having that visibility also makes you a great resource for others, right? Like Lindsay, you said, like other people come to you and ask. Amy, I'm curious about, you know, you're going to all these meetings and meeting new people all the time,
Yeah.
right? Investors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you feel like has been the hardest part of this travel, you know, and pumping kind of versatility thing that you have had to manage?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of people would question my dedication sometimes. Like, if you're a startup founder, you have to be so focused. You can't have any other focus besides your company, which I don't believe that at all. I think there were the most amazing women who came before me, like Laura Modi, CEO and founder of Bobby, who started her company when she was 7 months pregnant. Look what she has built. She's built this incredible company. Allison Ellsworth of Poppy also pitched on Shark Tank when she was 9 months pregnant. And so I think we're starting to normalize the fact that we can be founders, we can be mothers, we can be these incredible people who feed our children, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. So I've really been proud of the women that came before me, and I hope to be that example for others that we can do all of that, and it's okay, and it's great, and something to celebrate. So I think that those people before helped a lot in a very big way.
Yeah, and totally. I think you know, we hear a lot too from people who comment on our social media or let us know, I wish I had Milk Stork, you know, like my kids are in college now. I wish I had Milk Stork back in the day. Like I would just pump and dump, or I would not take the work trip, or I just decided to, you know, cut pumping altogether, right? When I returned to work, which is a huge sacrifice. So I think one thing that a lot of our audience wants to know today, this is like the meat of it, right? Is what are the tips? Like, what's been the hardest part for you, and how have you mitigated that? So we'll go around for this one because I know you all have like your stash of resources that I would love for you to share. Feel free to share in the comments in the chat as well. If you guys have like shout out to your favorite brands, you know, this is going to be like a fireside chat about how much we love Bobby as well, because we've been such a great resource for a lot of our Milk Stork moms as well. But yeah, let's start with Lindsay. What?
Actually, look, do you want me to do the poll, Lydia,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
let's launch the poll.
Okay. What's been the hardest part about pumping for you guys? So fitting pumping into your work schedule, finding the clean and private place to pump, hauling all of the pump parts and the expressed milk. Is it access to a fridge? We're going to come back to this fridge thing in a minute because it's a thing. And or is it the awkward conversations that you have to field with maybe a manager or your coworkers? So go ahead and vote, drop in your answers, and then Lindsay, tell us what's been the hardest part for you and how have you mitigated those challenges?
Yes, thank you, Lydia. I think coming back to work and just the mental exhaustion of just planning everything. But one thing that really helped with that, like I said, is just learning to find your voice and express what you need. Share with people why you're turning off your camera if you're on camera all the time, or set calendar blocks and do not move them. I think that's a big thing. I remember one of my colleagues asked me to move my block and I said, no, I can take the call, but I can't be on camera. And this is why. Or if the customer's here, I'm somewhere, I'll make it happen. And I totally agree with the car comment because a lot of time I'm in the back of the house in the restaurant in the kitchen working with the products we sell to the customer. So I'm in the car. And it just makes me think too for like the employees of that restaurant, what are they doing? And sometimes I'll ask that question too. And some of the restaurants I see are very conducive for that, but I feel like it's just a learning journey for all of us. And there's no fault in that. I think it's just we've come a long way, but we still have work to do. So I feel like the mental exhaustion, but like I said, setting the calendar blocks, having open conversations with that has been really helpful. And at Cargill, we have really nice mother's rooms here at our office center, corporate campus in Minneapolis. And they're working on getting a lot more mother's rooms in our other facilities. So it's great. It's been so inclusive. I'd say also, if you're taking a flight, just looking on the Mamava app, it will show where there's lactation pods everywhere. Very helpful. So kind of planning that out too. Like you find your spot at the airport, your home airport, where you can go, where it's next to your gate. Planning your favorite vendors to go get ice from. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's Cirrus Chill, that container where you hold breast milk. Amazing. At first, I was like, I don't need that. I can just use ice packs. But once you take a layover flight, trust me, you need it. So I find too, like, even if you go up to the counter and just say, like, you could buy a beverage, and request ice. But if you just need the ice too, I think they're more than willing to give you the ice to have for your breast milk to keep chilled. And then also I like a Sarah Wells pumping backpack. That's been really helpful in my journey. But I think the biggest thing for me is just like the calendar blocks, planning ahead and communicating with the event organizer too. If you've not met them before, just saying, what do you have available on site at this event I'm going to? Because again, I travel a lot. And then if you need a pump in your car, because we all make do, just say when you need to approximately take a break in case you need coverage, or they can plan for someone to present when you're taking a pumping break.
Yeah, I hear you on that. This is one thing that Milk Stork's founder, Kate Torgerson, has also said is schedule it into your calendar. But as we know, things, change, meetings get moved, but really advocating for that time, it sounds like, and being kind of like rigid about it because it is a medical break, right? That you're setting time aside for. Maya, have you had a similar experience like when you travel, like navigating airports and stuff like that, like the tips and tricks? I know you have quite a few.
Yes, I've learned so much from other moms. So that's why sharing all these ideas is so important. Yeah, the biggest thing is kind of like reverse timelining everything, planning ahead, calling the hotel, making sure they have the fridge, if they're able to freeze things or not. I was just telling Lydia before we got on the call, I went to Mexico and that was a whole thing because I didn't realize you couldn't carry on your milk. You have to check your bag if your baby is not with you. So, like, just learning along the way what the rules are and having to work around that. But I did want to share with you guys. So, I have my milk cubby from Milk Stork, which is amazing. So, I highly recommend getting one of these, even if work doesn't cover it because it's just a good sized box. I'm sorry, my background is not helping, but also just getting a manual pump in case I've been on a trip where my pump died and I forgot the charger. So having a manual pump is huge just as a backup. And I know I was talking about that concert earlier. This was way easier to put in my purse than my whole shebang. And I know some of you guys have like LVs and things like that, which are great too. But this is like my tried and true, just in a pinch. And then making sure nobody told me about flange inserts. My like nipple size does not fit the like whatever they give you. So on Amazon, I just got these nipple inserts, and making sure that you have the right size is going to help a ton with your output. So that was my biggest thing. And then switching out duckbill valves just to make sure that you have the right. I like the ones from Legendary Milk. Those ones are really great. And they just help with your output. The other thing with traveling is sterilizing. Not every hotel is going to have microwaves, but if you are able to find one, I have these like munchkin bags that I take with me, and it just helps with being able to sterilize when I can. And then my biggest tip, so these are the bags that fit pretty much any pump, and you can just pump directly into the bag. These are amazing. And then make sure you bring a Sharpie with you, because I always forget mine, and you need to write like the time and the names and all of that. But my biggest tip are these dehydrated sponges from Amazon. You leave them dehydrated, and then you just cut them into fours, and they make tiny sponges. But you leave them dehydrated wherever you're traveling to, and you put the baby's dish soap on it. And then once you get there, they puff up and you can wash. And then I just throw it away because I'm not going to travel back with it. But they don't take up any space. And then also just these are the Dapple baby wipes, and I bring these everywhere too, just to clean all my stuff. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is keeping everything sterile as best that you can when you're traveling, because things just get to be a mess. And then I do use gallon Ziploc bags to separate sterile versus like what's been used, so I'm not contaminating either way. But definitely save as much milk as you can. Like, I don't think you need to pump and dump. And to be honest, I save a lot of my milk. Even if I had a cocktail, I save it and I freeze it and I use it in his bath. And I use it, mix it with Vaseline, and I use it for diaper rash cream and things like that. Like, your milk is gold. So even if you had a glass of wine, I think it's okay to save it and use it for other things. But and I still, like, I would use Milk Stork to send that back to you. I would just label it with the Sharpie so I knew the difference between the milk. But I think those are my biggest ones. There's so many, and everybody has amazing ones. So I love talking about this kind of stuff. If you guys ever want to message me offline. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look how well prepared she was. She's clearly a planner, guys. So this was the right choice for one of our panelists here. We totally unprompted. We did not tell her to bring that milk cubby out. So beautifully packed, by the way. But love that you did that. Thank you, Maya. These are all the tips and tricks, right? There's a lot of information out there, especially on social media these days. And it can be a little bit noisy. So this is, I think, very helpful for our audience to just know, here's one mom and it worked for you. And, maybe this will save some people some heartache later. Just jumping back to our poll results really quick, I think for me, it was the sterilization, keeping everything sterile and safe and clean. That was the hardest part of pumping. Surprisingly, only 9% of you guys are the hardest part about pumping is a clean and private place to pump. 70% fitting pumping into your work schedule. That's like the whopping majority, right? And I think that's top of mind for most of us. 48% said the hardest part of pumping was hauling all the pump parts and express milk back and forth. 22% access to that fridge, managing storage and transportation. 34% awkward conversations with manager and coworker, which is 34% is still, that's pretty high. That's pretty high. And we have a lot of content out there about this. How to talk to your employer and stuff like that. But a lot of it is dependent on culture too, right? So that's really interesting. Amy, we haven't heard from you yet. What is the hardest part about pumping for you? And like, what have you kind of learned or mastered along the way?
The hardest part for me was that I am a just enougher. I definitely saw all those videos on TikTok, of course, that we've all seen, those amazing women who have those all fridges, freezers full of milk. And I went into my journey like really, I hope I can be that. But then I also had the expectation. I actually worked in infant nutrition at a startup for a few years before I started Recess. And I talked to so many women across the US who were just like me, they were just enoughers, or their baby couldn't latch, or anything else that was going on. So I knew that those women who had those amazing freezers and fridges full of milk are incredible, but it's not the norm for every single person. And so I went into it first saying like, I hope I'm that. And then I wasn't. And that was hard for me for a moment. And then I said to myself, you know what? My baby gets some breast milk, and I'm so incredibly proud of my body for creating this for her to have that nutrition. And then also knowing that there's incredible formulas out there like Bobby, there are some days, of course, where I maybe didn't drink enough water that day and my supply dipped a little bit. And I would be so upset. I'm like, I don't have enough. But I'm like, hey, there's incredible formula to feed her with. I'm all right. She's all right. It's all okay. So I think having the expectations going into that and having the mental load of it also can help too in a big way. And then from any tips that I have, I would say at the sterilization part, the baby Brezza cleaner, I love that thing so much that it's like the bottle washer. I've had so many parents reach out to me and be like, oh my gosh, how do you wash all these pump parts? And I was like, that baby Brezza cleaner saved my life. Okay, put those things there and it's great. You can get it on Facebook Marketplace as well for much less expensive than the normal price. And then some other tips that I have were in regards to the Kindred Bravely bras. I love those so much. Being able to be hands-free, of course, was huge for me. And then calling ahead, just like Lindsay was saying too, just calling ahead to any of the places that you're traveling to. Where can I store my milk if I don't have a place for it? If I didn't have the amazing milk Stork cubby. So just a few of my tips that I've had along my pumping journey.
Thank you. Love these Milk Cubby shout outs. Totally organic, guys. I'm not kidding, but it
It's
is.
an amazing product. I love it.
Yeah, she's a workhorse,
Yeah.
when we first released the first iteration, my daughter, who's a toddler at the time, like sat in it and scooted around like it was a boat. And she was like, Mommy, it's like a boat, because it was so sturdy. So fun tidbit there. I want to all of these tips were great, by the way, and hopefully our audience members are, try some things, see what works for you and have gleaned a little bit of insight from your guys' journeys. I want to take a second though and ask, let's be real here, right? Pumping sucks, right? It's hard. The fact that the three of you have sustained it, each for as long as you have, and worked and traveled on top of that, is amazing. And were there points though for any of you where you felt like, I'm done. Like I can't sustain this, right? And I'll share, from my own experience, just to kick things off. I wasn't traveling, but even just breastfeeding, I was like, this is not working. She wasn't latching very well. My daughter was born like in the midst of COVID, so I didn't have access to a lot, resources and all that stuff. So at the 6-week mark, I remember sitting on the stairs and I was like in tears and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I wasn't even pumping yet. So like little did I know that was like down the line. But it was a make or break moment for me. And then, I had great friends and resources digitally because it was COVID. And so I kind of like had to work up my mental stamina, and like I was resolute about it, that I was like, you know what? I don't effing care. I'm gonna figure this out, right? What else are we doing? We're all home, right? So it's like, let's just figure this out. And I think a lot of parents, whether it's frustration with breastfeeding or with just pumping and going back to work and trying to find time in their schedule, can feel like these major lows on some days. So do any of you have you had moments like that, and how did you get through them?
I had so many moments like that. I was like, can I, be a startup founder and have a baby who doesn't sleep well at all, and keep going down this journey? And I just knew really deeply that I wanted to give her as much breast milk as possible. And I just kept thinking about her in the future. And that just kind of kept me going every single day. And on top of that, I would say it's like choosing the right pump made a big difference for me, honestly. So I started off with that pink Spectra. I was tied to the wall. I felt so like just chained to it in such a big way. And then I switched to the blue one that's portable. And I found other pumps that helped me in my current, stage in life and what was going on with my career. And that made me say, like, I can be mobile. I can do this. It's possible. And I also just talked to so many other women who are also pumping at the same time. So we could come together and say, this is so tough. How can we get through together? And also looking for amazing tools like Milk Stork, just knowing that there's great companies who want to support us out there. So just constantly looking for that support, finding things that work for you, and just thinking about your baby in the future. And that helped me every step of the way.
That's not, yeah, community sounds like, and having that support is so
Yeah.
important. Lindsay, you wanted to share?
Sure. So my husband, Taylor, shout out, because you have to have someone on the receiving end of Milk Stork too. So thank you to my husband, Taylor. Him or I could give you plenty of tips for doing the shipment. I would say also call the hotel, check with a FedEx. If there's a FedEx at a shipping center too, like you got to make sure you line up the hours on that too with the box. So again, find me on LinkedIn if you want to talk further about that. But that was just one thought I had. But I think with me, maybe it was like the early stages when I was just nervous about going back to work in my head, planning like, how will this work? But then once you get going, you just find a little routine. Those blocks help so much. And my advice would be find one or two people that have done this journey that you can really relate to. And do not look on those TikTok scrolls, the doom scroll, and compare yourself. Again, do not compare yourself to what other people are doing, because that's not their children. It's your journey with your child and what you choose to do for yourself. So I think that was my biggest learning. And of course, like, they target it. So it's like all you see is like breast milk, pumping, all these things, what I eat in a day to pump milk. It's like, no, don't worry about that. You just need to focus on what you're doing for yourself and your child. And it's okay if you decide to stop or drop and do combo feeding. It's all what you want to do. But I think just working with my husband and talking right away of just like, okay, I'm going to do this. He was really supportive. I had a couple of friends at work that just said, like, think of it as like one more week of pumping. What can you do for your child? And I actually remember having a call with a colleague at Cargill right before I came back from maternity leave. So I was still sitting at home looking at my daughter, like, how am I supposed to go back to work? And she was so encouraging. So just one or two people, that's all you need. Your spouse, your partner, whoever, I think just have your little championing village and you're good to go.
That's great. Yeah, it's so important. I think a lot of people who have joined the conversation today might feel a little bit isolated. Maybe they haven't gone back to work yet, or they haven't found their people. So definitely, reach out. Like that's a recurring theme here, right? Reach out, find people. And Maya, what about you? Did you ever feel like, how am I going to keep doing this?
Yeah, I guess mine is like two parts. So the first day I got back home with my son from the hospital, you take him to the pediatrician that following day. And I felt like the pediatrician was really pushing formula on me. And I know everybody has a different experience, and I love formula for a lot of different reasons, but I was really dedicated to doing breastfeeding. I wanted the connection, I wanted those nutrients and all of that. And I guess he had lost a little bit of weight, they all do when you bring him home from the hospital. But she had me terrified that I like was not giving him enough. And I didn't know like the colostrum early on. Like I thought I was educated, but it's different when the emotions are hitting and you are worried about keeping this baby alive, that they didn't send you a manual with, you're just in the thick of it. So I remember getting in the car with my husband and I was like, I just need a minute. And I like literally just started crying because I was like, I'm not doing enough for my baby. And like, do I just do formula? And I almost called it a quits with breastfeeding because I was like, I got to give this baby what he needs. And I'm so glad I stuck with it, because here we are, almost 18 months later. And I will say I'm like heading into trying to wean, and that's come with its own emotions. And to be honest, I think it's harder on me than it is on him. And nobody really prepared me for that piece of it, is like thinking about our last time breastfeeding together like makes me so emotional. So if anybody has tips or tricks for that, please let me know, because I'm struggling. But I know like timing wise, I feel good about it now, and I don't feel like it's because of my work situation or anything like that. So that gives me peace. So I think for me it was just like the dedication to giving him as much as I could, and that's what made me stick with it. And I'm really thankful for my work situation where we do have Milk Stork and we do have resources, and I'm primarily, I'm at home, or when I am traveling, I still have that flexibility. So
Yeah, so it sounds like, and this was true at least from my experience as well, you know, you can, all the sort of negative pressure or voices pushing formula, or like, you can't do this, or it's too hard, whether it's from you or from social media or from a pediatrician or somebody. On the flip side, just as impactful can be those positive voices, right? It can be those other moms who are like, don't worry about it, like, you'll figure it out, put some blocks on your calendar, and all that kind of stuff. So it's important to balance out, right, those the feedback you're getting, because for every one voice that's negative, you might find 1, 2, 3, 4 and more who say, I've done it and you can do it too, right? We're going to pivot for a second. We're going to drop in our last poll question here before we wrap up. What's something you wish someone told you before returning to work about pumping and working? Was it the emotional and physical draining part? Was it the advocacy component that's still needed at work? Or it's okay to supplement with formula if needed? Do you wish somebody told you about travel and pumping, or would that have scared you? That would have scared me. Or that you're not alone, or something else. Drop it in the chat. We'd love to know. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much for everybody who's stayed on, including our panelists. I know we're running a little bit over, but such a good conversation. I just couldn't cut it short.
We've got a few questions, Q&A questions. Could we address maybe one or two of those real quick, Lydia? Because I think
Sure.
there's too many questions. There's so many questions in the chat, and
Go ahead,
maybe
hit
we've
it.
got a little bit of time. Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. Didn't mean to throw you off, but I think we've got a good one here from Sierra. Sierra asks, when do you have the conversation with managers or others about places to pump and how to best schedule breaks or where to store milk during the day? After maternity leave or before? I'm such a planner. I want to go ahead and have that info for myself, but I keep holding back. What have you all done? I think we have quite a few planners on this panelist. Who wants to go first? Thank you, Sierra, for the question.
Yeah, I think having that conversation early, at least in my scenario, I think everybody's work situation is a little different. Your relationship with your boss might be a little different, but I asked pretty early on, and thankfully we have an HR department. So honestly, my boss wasn't able to answer a lot of the questions for me because he's never really had to deal with it before. So I found that asking other women that I knew had gone through it. I also asked like the front desk at our office because we had to have access to that room. So I think every company is a little different, but I think having that conversation early is better. And that way it's not like taboo or your boss feels like it's an appropriate conversation or something. I don't know, but I think they're understanding as long as they're kind of educated and you talk to them up front.
I totally agree, Maya. I would say you can assume people just don't know. And my thing too is once you say what you need and you're working with others, you would hope that if that manager has future employees coming back from maternity leave, they would, be proactive and say like, what can I do to support you? So I think I try to remember that for myself too. If I ever have direct reports one day, like be proactive about it, because I think that's a lot of ease. Because in my mind too, not saying anything is also a choice, especially if you were informed. So I think just making sure to say what you need, and then also just asking your facilities team, do they have resources already available? Because they might. And sometimes too, like the rooms are called mother's rooms or lactation rooms, like the terminology might be a little different depending at the facility. And even if you're visiting like another large campus, like here at Cargill, our visitors are also provided information about lactation rooms, which is kind of cool, I think. I would love that if I travel everywhere and that was provided. So I'm really happy my company is so inclusive in that way. But I would just say per trip, kind of map out what you think you're doing. Because for me, again, sometimes I'm in the restaurant, sometimes I'm going to a conference. You think a conference would be conducive to the environment. You've heard from me, it's not. So I think just mapping out in your mind and seeing what would work. And then again, too, just coordinating when you will ship that milk box, or if you're toting it back with you too, that works as well. But if you're shipping, especially kind of understanding the logistics. The other thing too on the fridge, I know that people were noting, sometimes the regular fridge is not enough. You have to check the temperature. So just make sure whatever fridge you're getting, the medical requested one, it has what you need. If you want to freeze your milk too, I never did that, but I know Milk Stork offers that for sending it back home. You can check into that too. So just state what you need. So if you want the fridge, make sure to say you want the freezer in it. If you need ice at the hotel, all of those things. The other thing too, if you're using ice packs, they have to be completely frozen going through TSA. I learned this the hard way. The one time I was toting milk, they have to be completely frozen. So you can bring them down to the hotel front desk and say like, can you keep these in your employee freezer for me? Whatever you have to do. Again, just you have to be creative sometimes, but hopefully the continual asking would make these facilities realize that they could do more. Another time I forgot my charger, like Maya said, the front desk at the hotel came in handy. They had an extra 9-volt charger for me, and I actually wrote that employee a thank you. And then I went to that hotel again and she remembered me. So just kind of cool. Help recognize those people making your journey possible too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely, yeah, we all feel you on the fridge thing. It is a medical necessity, just for anyone who doesn't know, to travel with breast milk, and they will, or they're supposed to, waive the medical fridge fee for breast milk. And it needs to be 40 degrees or colder in order to safely store breast milk. So that's why a lot of these, the mini bar fridges and stuff like that that keep snacks cold might not be up to par for breast milk. So that's something to look into.
I'm going to share the poll results just
Yeah.
so we can take a look at that, because I'm curious. Did everybody see it?
Yeah. Okay. So what do we wish that we knew before returning to work and pumping? 48% wish they knew it was emotionally and physically draining. 33% that advocacy at work is often required. 19% that it's okay to supplement with formula. 29% that travel while pumping is a whole different beast. And 45% of you said that I'm not alone, wishing that you knew that you weren't the only one pumping. So again, that visibility, right? So if one person advocates, whether it's you or someone else, it can have a domino effect, right? And create a little bit of a culture shift of visibility for other pumping moms too. So that's awesome. We're gonna wrap up here. I know I said that already, but hold on, let's see. Any final parting words of wisdom that you want, that any of you want to share with the audience before I go into like the housekeeping closing stuff?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all for your time today, and just love how supportive this community is. And on the topic of it being mentally and physically draining, when I wasn't working while pumping, if I wasn't on emails or calls or anything, I used that time. I asked someone about this. I said, "What can I do during that time?" She said, "Do something nice for yourself to refill your cup while that's happening. Whether that's listening to a podcast, an audiobook, meditating, truly anything that can help you during that time. If you're pumping for 30 minutes in a row, do something kind for yourself during that time." So that started to help it, almost like think of it as my special time. And that really helped my mental journey with it for sure.
Yeah, the mental health component, I think, is something that we didn't quite have time to touch on today, but it's a big part of this, right? Because your body, you have to do so much physical work, right? To keep yourself nourished with enough calories, the hydration, the hydration. Drop your favorite water bottles in the chat, because people are always asking about water bottles. I've been buying Stanleys for all my new mom friends, but I know there's other ones out there. But the mental health component of taking care of yourself and actually using your pumping time as time, like you said, Amy, to fill your own cup. What does that look like, right? Is it getting caught up on stuff, or is it totally zoning out? Is so important as well. And right. And we know also as women that like when we pump, if we're stressed, the letdown doesn't happen as well. Right. I don't know if this happened to any of you, but I had a wireless pump. And I just like pictured myself like going on runs and like pumping while I was having coffee dates and stuff like that. And I could not pump any milk unless I was sitting perfectly still with like my lavender diffuser going in the back. Like it was so precise. And I was like, this is not how I pictured it,
I bring baby clothes with me, so I smell him, and that helps a lot.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Yeah, so all of these tips and tricks have been hopefully helpful to you guys, for your audience. I've loved talking with the three of you so much. I'm a couple years out from my pumping journey now, but hopefully you all have gleaned some great tips and stuff from our panelists today. And I just want to share one more slide with you guys as we wrap here. So for those of you who have asked, we are sharing the recording after this. And we have to choose a winner, Caesar, for our breast pumping travel essentials kit.
Yes, so totally random. Choosing a random name. Cassandra Cunningham, step on up. We're gonna follow up with you afterwards, and get your address so we can send it over to you, the travel essentials kit. But thank you.
Great. Okay, Cassandra. Yes. All right. So a couple of things. First of all, thank you so much to Maya, Amy, and Lindsay for being here and sharing your time and your experiences with us. Thank you all of our people who are still on. I know this went way over, but really appreciate you guys just keeping the conversation lively in the chat. We have a couple special things for everyone who joined us today. So we have a referral program here at Milk Stork. If you want to refer your employer, you can refer a business to Milk Stork. And when your referral signs up, you get $300 for that referral. It's only for 24 hours. The referral program is always happening, but it's usually only $250 when your referral signs up. So for the next 24 hours, if you send your employer our way, you're like, this company needs Milk Stork, or someone else's employer needs Milk Stork, when they sign up, you get $300 as a thank you from us. Anybody who's listening to this right now, you can get a $10 promo code, $10 off with your promo code Back to Work, expiration date September 30th. So if you have been eyeing a milk cubby, thank you, Maya. You can grab that today for $10 off. And we're also going to send out 5 tips for pumping at work from our friends at Simply Fed. Simply Fed is a virtual lactation consulting company who partners with Milk Stork, and we love them. They have been a great resource for us, and they have some great tips that we will share out as well with the recording. So with that, thank you so much, everybody. That's a wrap. And, find our wonderful panelists on LinkedIn. Follow Milk Stork on LinkedIn. We're on all the channels, and let's do this again sometime.
Oh, we will. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you to our
everyone.
panelists.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you
Y'all are
all.
amazing. Thank you.